Welcome to the RobatDesk podcast. We have Ron Reich with us today. He is an expert in a number of things in leadership in general and sales. We have a lot of things in common, Ron. I don't know if you realize this. One of the things is you're an expert on apparently is how to handle difficult conversations. So I don't know how to make the conversation too difficult to start, but I'll find a way. So we'll sneak it in there. Motivation. I am a phenomenal motivator or demotivator, depending who you talk to. So it's like the same thing. It's just inverting your actions. So I feel like I'm pretty good at that. Listening. I've listened a lot. See, I just practiced right there too. So, and then delegating. I love telling people what to do. Then I don't have to do it.
It's always fun.
So yeah, so we have a lot in common here, Ron. So I'm excited to talk to you.
So am I.
So tell me a little bit about yourself. What got you into enjoying the leadership development world?
Rob, truly, it's an interesting story. I started my career in human resources, and I was working at an HR consulting firm. We were very small. I think there were five or six of us. We were all friends. We knew each other, and for a number of different reasons, we decided to shut the doors and go in different directions. And I wasn't sure what I wanted to do with the rest of my life, with the rest of my career. And out of nowhere, I got a telephone call from a guy in Dallas, Texas, a recruiter. He says to me, I've got an opportunity with Toshiba, and it's the exact opposite of what you are. He said, Toshiba's looking for somebody with some HR and a lot of training. You have a lot of HR and you've done some training. I can get you in front of them. He said, your job is to get them to switch the competencies. I got in front of them. We talked. They switched the competencies, and I got into sales training at that time, and I have never looked back.
Oh wow!
Just never. And it has been. It's my calling. It's just something that I am passionate about, and truly, just I have so much fun with it. It's incredible.
So you're one of those weird guys that enjoys sales.
Well, yeah, I do. I
Okay.
do. I mean, it's a lot more than actual selling, though, too, Rob.
Mm-hmm.
In that, when I first got into it, I was doing sales training,
Mm-hmm.
uh, which is a form of selling in and of itself. And I'm also a believer that even with leadership development or any sort of training, you are indeed. And I'm not sure I want to say selling. You're trying to inspire people to implement and to just work with the information that you're sharing with them because you can't force anybody to do anything.
No, absolutely no. I'm one of those weird guys that like sales. Those people look at you, they go, "Oh crap, what are you going to try to sell me?" I'm like, "Nothing. I don't have anything to sell you. I'm just talking to you."
Right.
Like people go, "Like, how good of a salesperson are you?" I go, "You should go look at my wife. She said yes to me." Like I'm almost have time to put her picture and like her resume on my resume. Like, look, she likes me.
Right.
If I convince, like it's a monumental sales task there. So you got into sales training. So how has sales training changed from, because you said about what, 28 years ago, give or take?
That was 28 years ago, and I did a lot of sales training. And in fact, it was so long ago, Rob, that the equipment that the sales reps were selling at that time, they were copiers and faxes.
Okay.
I still remember, though, truly, a couple of things about that. Number one, my boss said to me, number one, everybody in this industry believes if you can sell copiers, you can sell anything. And if you can train copier reps, you can train anybody. And I believe that very strongly, very, very strongly. In fact, we used to joke as a staff when we were at Toshiba, is like, you know what we're doing? We are training the future pharma reps of the world because what most copier reps wanted to be able to do. I'll do this for a year or two, and then most pharma companies loved to take people with that kind of background and have them sell. whatever
Right.
trucks they have.
Well, I'll agree with you. If they can sell a fax machine today, they can sell anything.
That's right. You can do that today. That's impressive.
We just bought a house, and the sales lady with the house, I kept joking, like, didn't like whenever they ask for information, I'm like, I'm gonna fax that over to you,
Right.
just just to mess with them. And now it's an ongoing joke, but yeah, it's just one of those. Like I had a service tech once asking if a couple of years ago asking if a fax came in for a service order. I'm like, no, it didn't. I can't imagine why it didn't come in. I was like,
Let me check the connection.
yeah, right. Maybe we unplugged it from the wall 12 years ago. I'm not sure. So, but no. So then, over the 28 years, sales training has developed and changed a lot. I'm sure. What are some of the big changes you've seen over the decades in sales?
Well, I think it has changed so much in that, and it kind of what we were just talking about is that you can't people don't want to be sold to.
Hmm.
People want to buy things. And I think what's really changed is that just the mindset of the reps has changed drastically in that you've got to find out exactly what your clients are looking for and what's important to them before you start talking about your own products. And I mean, one of the best sales training programs I ever attended, I still remember the facilitator saying, "You are not permitted to say one word, not one, about you, your company, or your products until you have learned everything there is to know about your client." And that made sense to me.
Oh yeah,
Really did on some level. I know that's pretty extreme.
yeah.
Still, in all, his point was, if you go in there and start spouting information, how do you possibly know that it's important to your client? How do you know that? And that stopped a lot of people, a lot of the reps, dead in their tracks. Where it's like, that's true. Yeah, I mean, you've got to find out. You've got to ask the questions. And I mean that's kind of what led me into the leadership development work that I've been doing too. Is that you've got to ask the questions, you've got to get to know the people with whom you work in order to be successful. Because otherwise you're going to go nowhere.
Oh no, absolutely. It's that relational sales idea where you got to build that relationship with the customer to develop the trust.
That's it. That's exactly right. I
So
mean, the one thing, Rob, that I like to do, and an activity that I like to do in some of the leadership sessions is I will break the group into small groups, whatever it might be, just for
yeah,
argument's sake, three groups of four or whatever. And there's something I call the three R's. The three R's: relationships, reputation, and results. And I have them talk about, for sustained business success, which is the most important R of the three. They'll talk about it. And most often, what we come up with is that none of the R's are more important than the other. They're all equally as important. It's like a three-legged bar stool.
hmm,
And people will say to me, "Ron, you asked us to pick one. So we want you to pick one. Which one is most important to you?" And if I have to pick one, it's relationships, because good, solid relationships are going to lead to a good reputation for me and leading to solid, consistent results.
no, absolutely. It's like because it's like the four major objections: the time, need, trust, and money. And if you lose the trust one, it doesn't even matter if they have the money
Right.
or if they have the need. They're like,
That's
we
right.
don't trust what you're doing. So,
That's right.
so then in the sales training world, or like, have you ever heard of this? You've probably heard the story where people go in for a job interview. It's a sales interview, and they go, "Hey, Ron, sell me this pen."
Right.
What do you think of that sales? I don't know. What would be the? I don't want to call it training because it's the interview sales. What would be a good the sales tactic or the sales like shows of expertise? Like if I told you to sell a pen to me, what would you say?
What's important to you in a pen?
That it writes, that
What
it
would
has
you
it.
What would you use the pen for? Or without a pen, what would you not be able to do that you need to be able to do?
Okay, I like it. But would you use that on in an interview process if you're going trying to?
Probably not.
Yeah.
Probably not. I mean, the one thing with that, Rob, that I do like, I like watching people. I like to see how people think on their feet.
Yep.
That part, it does make a lot of sense to me. Uh, I prefer the behavioral based
Hmm.
interview questions.
Okay.
I think that's a better approach.
Like behavioral based. Could you give me an example?
Tell me about a time, Rob. Tell me about a time when you dealt with a really tough customer. Tell me about a time when a customer was really unhappy with you and your company. What was the situation? What did you do about it? And how did things turn out?
It was a Tuesday. It was a day that ended like any day. It ended with a Y. It was every day. No, like selling. I would say selling over COVID through COVID has been more of an interesting challenge because like expectations has changed
Yes,
post POs. Because like all of a sudden, like something you would normally get done in a number of weeks couldn't get done because you didn't have the raw materials, you didn't have
right.
whatever it was, and there's at any given point a time for a delay, and like just keeps resetting those expectations with customers.
Yeah, yep,
But,
that's right. That's
but yeah,
right. I mean, to me, keep being upfront with your customers, and the key thing for me is exactly what you said, Rob, is just making sure that the expectations are clear on both sides, and that if something changes, both sides need to be honest with each other and let each other know what's happening, and especially through COVID. My goodness.
oh yeah, because it was changing daily. Like we would
Right,
get like I worked in an industry where we made a steel product, and steel prices shot up through the roof.
right.
It got to the point where we like our shop wouldn't let us quote something without verifying it that day.
Yeah, yeah.
So it was pretty intense. It was pretty crazy. So what are things you look for in a person when when your HR background and your sales training background? What are you when you get if you were like a headhunter for a salesperson, what are you looking for?
I would look for somebody who had uh, a diverse set of skills, and a lot of it too, Rob, truly depends upon the current makeup of the team.
Hmm.
In other words, if I have a lot of people oriented individuals on the team already, I'm going to look for somebody, yeah, obviously who can communicate well. Still, in all, I may need somebody who's more analytical, who can do some of the project work for me.
Hmm.
uh, I'm going to look for somebody who's thorough, who can handle the administrative piece of things, and a lot of it too depends upon the types of products the person would be selling. Am I looking for somebody who is just extremely outgoing? Am I looking for somebody again who's just maybe a little bit more laid back? If it's I'm just thinking out
Oh
loud.
yeah, that's
If
fine.
it's a medical device type of organization, maybe somebody who is a little bit more stoic, if you will, and not overly energetic, where you may turn off people in the medical field.
Hmm. Interesting. Huh. All right. So then looking at your list of things, emotional intelligence. I always think that's an interesting, especially because you've dealt with HR. So that was the one that kind of, made me interested because like my wife works in HR. So I can't tell you the stories. Literally, I can't tell you the stories. So, but the stories are amazing. And like keeping like how would you define like emotional intelligence? So like especially when you're dealing with people in those situations.
For me, emotional intelligence is a number of different things. It's the ability for me to handle my own emotions appropriately, to be able to read and accurately deal with someone else's emotions, And I actually take it a bit, further than just emotions, Rob.
Hmm.
Emotional intelligence for me is getting to know yourself extraordinarily well. And what I mean by that simply is people who are emotionally intelligent know what their strengths are. They know what their limitations are. They know when they get emotional, they don't just react. They have the ability to take a step back and kind of pause, reflect, without firing off an emotional response to somebody. Let me take a step back. Let me just think about this for a second. And then they can respond more appropriately. Emotionally intelligent people also have the ability, essentially, to, at times when it's appropriate. You know what, Rob? Our conversation here is getting kind of heated. Maybe we should just take a break. How about if we get together in an hour and revisit this? Talking about, the prices with, with the steel that you were saying earlier, whatever it might be. Emotionally intelligent people are very comfortable with themselves in that if they make a mistake, they'll admit it quickly. They'll apologize. I was wrong. I shouldn't have said that. And again, just those sorts of things. Emotionally intelligent people are empathetic, and they ask the questions of people so that they can understand them, and then they take the appropriate action, whatever that may be. Maybe I need to help you. Maybe I need to, give you some more training. Maybe you and I need to have truly a very difficult conversation right now. At least I've asked you the questions, though, so that we understand each other and that we're not butting heads. We are indeed talking, even if we're not happy with each other.
Hmm. How would you help someone develop emotional intelligence if you were working with them? Like, how would you train them up or coach them up on it?
So much of that, Rob, truly is just all about practice. I mean, it really, really
Hmm.
is. At least, practice with, as far as responding to somebody and taking that step back. A lot of that is practice. Before that, though, coaching. You said coaching somebody up on emotional intelligence. That part is teachable. And what I'm talking about is knowing your own strengths, knowing your own limitations. That people know about themselves. I mean, you may need to talk about it with people, and still, that's all learned
Mhm.
information, if you will. And just making people aware of the fact, hey, emotionally intelligent people apologize. They're okay with that. They're comfortable with themselves.
No, that makes sense. So in all your teaching, I'm always curious. Then, have you ever coached like a team sport?
Actually, I have.
Because I'm always curious. Like, I love coaching like sports.
So do I.
So it's one of those where it's like there's a like my wife being in HR. I hear these stories. It's like you're dealing with junior hires sometimes, but they're adults. And it's like when you have two senior managers that don't want to talk to each other, it's like I remember that in junior high. I don't
Yeah,
remember that
yeah,
with borderline C-level people.
right. That's right. That's exactly right. And sometimes it is like that. It really is. I've been in situations like that, like your wife. I've dealt with that before.
Yeah. So like would you if someone was in like I think there's certain things in life that are people should do. Like if you don't get out much, like I always joke with like pastor friends I have, and I was like, they should Uber. They should go out and meet random people, take them to where they're going, and learn stuff outside of their, you know, sphere of bubble. Sometimes they get stuck in wherever you're at.
Yes.
I'm like, go be an Uber driver. Just do it like every other week for a few hours, and just be amazed of what the conversations that come up in your car.
Right.
Because I did it for a while, and it blew my mind what people were willing to talk about. Some people
Yeah.
don't want to say a word. Some people you couldn't shut up.
Right.
And it felt like some people like afterwards, you're like, I'm gonna be in your wedding. Like what? I just drove you to that. like, I just can't. But then and then there's a lot of stuff like in the corporate world when I see stuff and see how managers treat people. Sometimes good, sometimes bad. I think that, and depending the day and how they are. But you go, it's almost like they should coach a junior high soccer team at least once, or a basketball team, and go, it's amazing how the skills correlate from trying to get Johnny to figure out how to, it's like at that age, it's very basic skills. You're more teaching them how to be a teammate more than how to play soccer or basketball.
Yeah, yeah. Well, one of the greatest stories I have. So many years ago, Rob, I had the opportunity to coach Little League,
Okay.
13, 14, 15-year-olds.
Nice.
And my friend Scott and I were honored to be asked to coach the All-Star team
Nice.
for our league. One of the kids on the All-Star team played for our team during the regular season.
Hmm.
Okay. To make a long story short, the first All-Star game that we played, Chris made an error in the last inning playing second base, winning run scored.
Oh,
He and I are walking off the field, okay, and it was so poignant. We're walking off the field. He's got the tears in his eyes, and I'm like, "What's wrong, Chris?" Coach, I screwed this up. We lost and everything else. I was like, "Okay, let me ask you a question. What was the mistake that you made?" He said, "Well," he said, "I should have been playing in further. I should have charged the ball instead of letting it come to me. I let it play me and it went through my legs." And I was like, "Okay, so you learned something and you'll do something differently next time." That fair to say, Chris? Absolutely. And I was like, "Good. Okay." And I pointed out to the horizon and truly the sun, this is in the background you have here,
yeah.
the sun was just going down. And I was like, "Chris, what do you think the odds are that big orange thing you see out there is going to come back up again tomorrow?" He looked at me and he smiled and he was like, "Okay, I get it." And it was a wonderful moment. My point is, it was at that point in time, Chris needed, an arm around the shoulder and someone, "It's okay, bud, it's all right. You made a mistake, you learn from it." The next game we played, he got a very important hit right near the end of the game, tied the game up. What he didn't do, though, he was so happy with himself when he rounded first base, instead of watching the ball, which was in left field, he was clapping and jumping around. I'm coaching first base. I said, "Get over here." And "Oh, yeah, all right, coach. Yeah, great." I was like, "You belong on second base. You weren't paying
Yeah.
attention. You weren't watching me because I was telling you to take the next base. Wake up and stop being so happy with yourself." Point is simply that was what he needed at that time.
Yep.
As everybody needs something different at different times. The first situation, he needed the arm around the shoulder, like I said. Second time, he needed a kick in the butt. Wake up,
Yep.
wake up.
No, what's interesting with the world you live in, like with the training and the sales and the people management skills, is because like I've talked to a number of college coaches, guys that coach smaller schools, Division II basketball,
Yeah,
and the basketball coaching world, especially, I'm assuming with most coaching networks, they're pretty small. When you're getting to a certain level of coaching, if you're coaching at a college, there's not much difference. And what's interesting is there's not much difference in the knowledge. He's like, I know than the guys at Duke know. It's like it's just all in the network you work in.
right.
It's like, and part of it was like, and you start thinking about it, is like the skills are there a lot of times. Like the game of basketball is a pretty simple game for the most part. It's just, but do you know how to use the people that are on the team, get
Right,
the best people on the team, and getting them working together well. It's
exactly.
like, and that's really what puts the elite programs. Like, why are these elite programs always at the top? That's why. Do they
Yeah,
have the best talent? The best talent want to come there? Well, yeah, probably because they also do these other things to get there. It's like it's not that they have better X's and O's and better training. All that stuff's
right.
in books somewhere. People know that stuff, but it's the soft skills, if you want to call it that. I think.
Well, I mean, I'll share something with you that I really like from Dr. Daniel Goleman, who's one of the true thought leaders in emotional intelligence.
Mhm.
And in his one book, he writes, and this is about business, granted, and I still believe it's true in personal lives as well. He said, once you get into the business world, everybody is about as smart as you are. And he said, what separates people from being good, really good and superior is emotional intelligence. In
Oh
other
yeah.
words, your ability to work with other people. And I
Oh,
believe
absolutely.
that. I'm not the smartest guy out there. There are a lot of people who are, smarter than I am. I think one of the reasons I've been successful, and I'm proud of this, is my ability to work with other people and to indeed get people to work together well.
No, absolutely. Like how many like over your experience, you've probably run into guys that are phenomenally talented at their craft,
Yes,
but they're horrible to work with.
yes,
It's like eh, they have a lasting time of maybe a year or two in an organization, and they move along
hmm,
because they get enough phone calls from people like you or the HR, and then they're going, "I don't want to deal with this. There's another company that wants me to go work for them."
right,
But they're going, instead of being corrected. And it was interesting. I didn't think about this with like the great resignation that's going on.
yeah,
Once
yeah,
again, my wife works in HR. I steal all my good ideas from my wife. Let's just be honest. It's like every time she's telling me about something, I'm like, can you send me the article about that? Like, I want to read, I'm, I'm just the lackey sales guy. and, but you have a lot of people now developing in the business culture world where once they start getting a little bit of resistance, it's like, well, there's another company that wants me or will hire me. Why fight through the resistance of a tough customer, a tough manager, high
hmm,
expectations or whatever, I just go somewhere else.
right.
So I'm curious, like your thoughts on that and where that could, the natural consequences of that.
Oh, actually, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Across the United States and across all of industry, okay, what do you believe are the major reasons employees become unhappy at work? And what do you think the major reasons for turnover are?
If I had to guess in no particular order,
Okay,
I would say, especially over the COVID years, is like a work flexibility.
okay,
I would, and I think it goes both ways where I've experienced it both ways where it's like where you have to be in the office or you have to be remote. And I think both have their pluses and minuses.
yes,
Absolutely. And so I think there's more and more people that want that hybrid and it gives them that flexibility. And that's what I'm sort of saying in the flexibility there. Um, being appreciated. And that doesn't always mean like, hey, give me a raise, but public admiration, like, hey, Ron, you've done a great job.
exactly.
Thank you for, and then also I think if that may fall in the same category of having an understanding of where they are in the company or a purpose for the company. Like
Yes,
that might be two different things, but like having an understanding of where their role is and what their potential could be at the company. Have they hit their ceiling at their company?
hmm,
Or are they at the bottom where like I can go all the way up to as high as I want to work to get at this company?
that's right. Yeah,
And then I would say purpose too. A lot of people are saying, people want to work at a purpose driven company. And I'm a little bit old on the understanding of that. I kind of go, if you have your own time to go figure out the purposes you want to go invest in outside of work.
hmm,
But I can see why people want that. I'm not saying it's a bad thing.
yeah. You're right on track, Rob. The number one reason people become dissatisfied at work is their relationship with their boss.
Yeah.
The number two reason people become unhappy at work is their relationship with their colleagues and their coworkers.
Okay.
The number three reason is what you were talking about, in that there's a lack of recognition and there's a lack of respect. The point is, though, there's no separation between those three things. In other words, people become unhappy with their boss because the boss does not provide enough recognition and or respect to his or her direct reports. And the same thing happens with colleagues. And because and again, I correlate this back. I believe strongly the flexibility piece that you were talking about, that all comes back to the relationship with your boss.
Oh yeah.
Also, I would like to be able to, to work from home 3 days a week. No. Or yeah, yes, that's fine. Whatever it might be. My point is though, that so much of workplace satisfaction comes from your direct manager and your coworkers. I mean, I've had wonderful bosses before
Hmm.
who have given me all kinds of recognition, a lot of respect, and I would have run through the wall for these people. And there were others where it's like, really?
right? I,
Really?
well, I guess I got two follow-up questions with that. Is then the you might have heard this. I can't source it. I don't remember where I hear it, but where people's satisfaction, like say you got a raise at work, and that satisfaction they say, or like the contentment only lasts like 30 to 60 days
Right.
before they're just going like, oh,
That's right.
it's not worth still not worth the money now anymore.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
and then the other thing too is like with like when you talk about contentment with or your relationship with your employees or your coworkers is a bit like my wife and I, we just moved and we related it. We were like, we bought a house. Like you get to, you get to talk to the owner, typically the real estate agent. You can do all the research you can, but you go, I don't know about the neighbors.
Right.
It's the crapshoot when you buy a house or start a new job.
Yeah,
It's your coworkers that you're working with day to day,
that's right.
and it's your neighbors. Like, because I had some friends and they love their neighbors. They're like, it was a community.
Yes.
And all of a sudden, like they're getting job offers to move out of town, and they're going, do we really want to do this?
Yeah.
Because all of a sudden, the risk of going getting new neighbors. Everyone's had a bad neighbor, I think, or at least close enough or heard a story when you're like, "Ooh, I don't want, well,
Yeah.
oh, I want them." Like that's makes life a little bit like
Yeah.
no one talks about their good neighbors, but everyone knows about the bad neighbor.
That's right. That's exactly right. Yeah, I mean, to talk about, what you were saying before with the money only lasting so long and so forth. When I worked for Toshiba, I was there for, I think, about 4.5 years.
Mhm.
And in that type of world, Rob, I was traveling every week.
Okay.
Just every week, I was somewhere in this country. And I just got to a point where I couldn't do it anymore. I,
Yeah.
I just could not do it anymore. And I still remember calling my boss on the Monday morning when I was going to resign. And I felt so badly because she had just come back from Europe and had been on vacation. And she and I did get along well. And I told her, Barbara, listen, I'm resigning. And I still remember the first thing she said. First thing, Ron, I can get you more money. I'll go to Tony's office. I'll call you back in 2 hours and I guarantee you I can get you more money. And I was like, Barbara, it's not the money.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm actually happy with what I make. I believe I'm paid fairly. It's the traveling. I can't do this. I did leave, and she had found out through a number of different sources that I wasn't particularly happy with the new job that I had taken.
Hmm.
She calls me, Mr. Reich, your old job is still out there if you're interested.
Dangling the carrot.
And Rob, as I sit here, this was many years ago, and I still remember it. I was like, Barbara, you have no idea how badly I want to come back, except nothing has changed. I'm going to be excited and I'll be energized for the first few months. And then everything, the same stuff is going to happen and I'm going to burn out again. And we're both going to lose. It doesn't make sense. I desperately want to come back, except it's not smart for either of us.
Yeah, no, but and that's good insight on your side too, because then you're just setting you're both up for failure again.
Right.
So
That's right.
no, no, that's a good thought. Like, and then how come employees, managers, like they said, hey, I can find you more money. Like, why do they wait till like, hey, I've already like if I've going, hey, Ron, here's my 2 week notice, here's my resignation. Odds are I have something lined up. I've already said yes to.
That's right.
You know,
That's right.
for the most part. Like there's some changes now in the culture in the world today with that. Some people are willing to say, but most of the time I would say that's a pretty true statement. So then if you're coming back with that you're asking me now to not only to not make this change I'm excited about, but then go tell someone no and come back.
Yeah.
It's like, how come you couldn't have the day before? Like, how come managers, it seems like in general, don't they are reactive instead of proactive on things like that?
I was talking to someone about that this morning, and I think a lot of it is people get caught up just in the day-to-day minutia. People get so busy and they forget about the people aspect of things and just do where it is just like, oh yeah, that's right. those I work with those people, or those people report to me. And I mean, it goes back to the three R's that we were talking about
Yeah.
earlier. You've got to have the relationships in order to be able to sustain positive business results. And just knowing these people. I mean, it's for whatever reason here, it's making me think. My my wife's cousin is one of the top people at the FDA.
Hmm.
And I was talking to him the other day.
Were you
And
asking about how long you could eat eggs after the expiration date? 'Cause that's always my question.
yeah, no, right? I was talking with him the other day, and the one thing he said to me was, he goes, "You know what I love to do, Ron?" He said, "I love walking around the office and just talking to people." He said, just and not all about the business. It's just talking to them about their lives, what's going on, and whatever. And he said, that's where I learn about them, and that's where I get, again, quote unquote, the inside information about what's really going on, instead of me just staying in my quote, again, quote unquote, ivory tower.
Oh yeah.
And it's about building the relationships.
You'd appreciate this story. I'm not trying to keep you too long here, but I call him a friend. He's a principal at a school I've coached at. He's a junior high principal, and with technology these days, like he's like, I don't want to be in my office all day. So he got one of these big stand-up roller desks, and he's got his laptop out on it so he can roam the hallways and be like leaning on the wall, be on the laptop on the desk, and be around the students more.
Yeah,
And it's similar to that where it's, because I mean they only have like the 3 minutes as they're rushing between classes or whatever, but then he can interact with them.
yeah, yeah. My wife taught for 30 years, and I actually did not know this. She told me this story a few months ago. The best principal she ever had, Joe used to stick her head in every single person's classroom every single morning.
Oh wow.
Just kind of, good morning, hi kids, how are you? Good morning, Mrs. Reich, and then not Lori, just whatever. And
Yeah.
she would do that in every single classroom to be visible, to make herself approachable, and again, so that she is a human being. It's not, oh my God, the principal wants to see me.
Right. Everyone I think remembers their first call up to the principal's office.
I do.
Oh, it's like, oh, what's this note here?
We're not going there.
Okay, about difficult conversations, Ron.
Yeah.
All right, Ron, if someone wants to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to do it?
The best way to get in touch with me, Rob, would be through LinkedIn.
Okay.
Just Ron Reich, RLB Training and Development, and truly, I welcome the opportunity to connect with anybody. If it just to chat, not to, oh yeah, let's work together or whatever. It's like, no, not at all. Let's just chat. And what you had said earlier about the sales and everything else is that I just want to have a conversation.
Yeah,
Let's just talk. Let's get to know each other a little bit. And if there's something there for us where maybe we can collaborate, that would be fabulous. And if not, so be it. That's fine.
absolutely. No, one thing I've learned just talking to people, there's so many ways people have learned to make a buck in this country that I'm always amazed when you talk to people like, oh, you're doing what? You're
Yeah.
doing what? You can do what? This is like, how do you do that? And it's incredible. All the different ways people have figured it out. So,
Okay.
so Ron, I'll put your the LinkedIn in the description so people can find it easily.
Okay.
And I appreciate the time.
Thank you. It's been a lot of fun, Rob. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Okay.